Philippians chapter 1, verse 21. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. If I am to live in the flesh, that means fruitful labor for me, yet which I shall choose I cannot tell. I'm hard pressed between the two. My desire is to depart and be with Christ, for that is far better. But to remain in the flesh is more necessary on your account. Convinced of this, I know that I will remain and continue with you all for your progress and joy in the faith, so that in me you may have ample cause to glory in Christ Jesus, because of my coming to you again. Paul's in the prison. He's facing his own mortality. He knows that at any moment Caesar could call him and he's going to have his audience that he demanded back in Caesarea Philippi. Caesarea. Anyway, and when Caesar calls him, he could have him put together death, or he could set him free. And he doesn't know. And I think from church history, it seems like most agree that Paul does end up getting set free in this audience with Caesar. It's later down the road that Nero gets his hands on him again, and that time he puts him to death. But at this time, he ends up going free. But at this point in the story, Paul's writing this letter. He's in prison. He's waiting for that audience, and he doesn't know for sure which way it's going to go. And so he's facing his own mortality, and that has a way of clarifying for us what we actually believe. Because I think sometimes we say we believe things and we think we believe things, but when it comes down to it, we don't know what we really believe until our life is on the line, until there's skin in the game. For Paul, there's a lot of skin in the game, like all of his skin. It's all in the game. And he's waiting for this audience. He doesn't know which way it's going to go, and it's clarifying for him what matters, what his priorities are. So he says, for to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. He says, if I am to live in the flesh, that means fruitful labor for me, yet which I shall choose I cannot tell. I am hard pressed between the two. My desire is to depart and be with Christ, for that is far better. Like, this is that struggle that's going on in him. Can you say that that struggle is going on in you? Like, really? Like, we can say that, but let's not pretend. Let's be real, okay? I don't know that that struggle is going on in me. And I don't know that that's a good thing. I kind of hold on to this life. There's precious things in this life. My wife and my children. I mean, my loved ones, my other loved ones, my parents and my brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and my in-laws. And I mean, there's precious things to me in this world. There's things that I still want to do and accomplish. And I think that's the truth for a lot of us. Like, we're very rooted in this life. We're very, and it's of course, we're very connected to this world and to this life. And this is all we know. And so it's hard for us to get outside of that. And yet that's sort of what God calls us to do, right? To have our eyes set on things above, not on the things of this earth. Galatians chapter 2, verse 20, he says, Paul says to the Galatians, I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Basically, he's identifying with the crucifixion of Jesus, saying, look, in Christ, I was crucified with him on that cross. The old Saul of Tarsus was crucified with Christ, and it's no longer him. It's no longer Saul who lives. It's no longer I who live. It's not Paul. It's not Jeff that lives. It's Christ who lives within me. And this life that I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who gave himself, who loved me and gave himself for me. And so my life belongs wholly to him, body and soul and spirit. I am not my own. I was bought with a price, and I am to glorify God in my body while I'm on this earth. And this is what we forget. This is what I forget when I get caught up in things like politics. When I get caught up in advocating for some dumb politician over the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. When I get caught up in some opinion that I have that I feel like I need to broadcast to everyone else. When I get caught up in someone else's sin and forget about my own. When I get mad at someone else because they're not where I think they should be, I get impatient with them when I think that I'm better than them because I already know this and they don't know that yet. But we forget that other people were patient with us when we didn't know. That God was patient with us and is patient with us with the things that we still don't understand and the ways that we still don't behave rightly. For to me, to live is Christ and to die is gain. In the life I live in the body, right? Galatians, I live by faith in the Son of God. Our job on this earth is to love people for Jesus. That's it. It's literally it. To go out with the gospel and tell other people about the Lord who saved us, who gave himself for us. An offering and a sacrifice for a sweet-smelling aroma that they too might receive the grace that we have received. For to me, to live is Christ. If I live in this body, I live for Christ. It's all for him. And to die, it's gain. Here we have struggle, we have sickness, we have pain, we have sadness. There, it's perfection. It's holiness. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. When we die, we don't go to sleep until Jesus wakes us up. It's no soul sleep. When we die, we are in the presence of the Lord, with him forever. All sadness, all tears, all of it is wiped away, and we are with him forever. And when he comes back, our bodies are resurrected. We receive our glorified bodies. We come with him as he comes to the earth to judge the living and the dead, to establish his throne. I think it was Revelation chapter 20, where he says the earth and the sky fled away from him. There was no place found for them. And he created a new heavens and a new earth where righteousness dwells. We're living for that. That's what we live on this earth. We live out that. That's the kingdom that we live into. We're looking for that city. That city is manifested already. That kingdom is already manifested in us because Christ is in us and it's his kingdom. So if Jesus Christ lives in us, then that kingdom that he has established is already established in his church, and it should be being established through his church, and he's going to come back, and when he sets his foot again on this earth, he consummates that kingdom. And then that will be the only reality that exists. Right now we live in this reality. This one that he's already conquered sin and death, and yet we still see sin and death in our bodies, and we still see it in the world around us. But to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Because if we die, we go to be with him. If we live here. And if we live here, we live for him. He says, which shall I choose? I cannot tell. I'm hard pressed between the two. My desire is to depart and be with Christ. So selfishly, I just want to be with him. So here's the deal. This is because he gets the reality. He can live like this because he gets the reality that when we leave this body, that second, we step into that reality. We step out of one reality and we step into another. This reality that we're going to go on living, that this is not it, that we don't die here and then it's over. We die here and we begin the next thing, and the next thing is for eternity. The next thing is more real than this real, right? The real that we know now, the reality we know now, that's more real than this, more perfect than this. It's as it should be. It's everything that we desire. That's going to go on for 1,000,000 billion years, and it's going to keep going because that is the world. That's the kingdom that he's establishing. Okay, and so the reality of that life needs to hit us. And when Paul's facing his own mortality, then it becomes even more clear probably than it's ever been in his life. He is looking into eternity. He's living for that eternity, and he's ready just to go. I just want to go. I want to start living there. I want to start experiencing that. I want to start living even more deeply in the presence of Jesus than I am now. And for Paul, remember Paul, he was like downloaded from the Lord. Like all the things that he needed to know for ministry, the Lord just downloaded directly to him. He knocked him off of his horse and spoke directly to him in that way. Like he heard the audible voice of Jesus and he wanted to just get more. He says, but to remain in the flesh is more necessary on your account. Convinced of this, I know that I will remain and continue with you all for your progress and your joy in the faith, so that in me you may have ample cause to glory in Christ Jesus because of my coming to you again. And so Paul says, but for you, you need me here still. There's some brokenness, there's some division with Euodia and Syntyche, which we're going to come to. I think it's in chapter 4 here. He's exhorting them to have unity. There's division in that church going on. They're starting to experience more of the persecution and the suffering that's going to come even more heavily in this century and later centuries in the Christian church. He wants them to be ready and prepared, and he loves to be a part of what God's doing in the lives of people who don't yet know him. He loves to see people where like the lights come on and they just get it and they see Jesus and they know him. They're joined into the church, joined into our family. They become our brothers and sisters. He loves that. He loves building churches and seeing leaders raised up. He loves supporting them. He loves them. He loves to receive their love. Oh, far greater is to be with Christ, right? And we all will be. But he says it's necessary still. You still need me. And so I'm convinced because you still need me, I still see that need and I still feel that desire to help you. I think Jesus is going to let me stay around a little longer. And so that's what he's saying here. He says, I really just desire to be there. But I love you. I love you. And I want to be here for you. And that's really us, right? We should be here. If we're here in this body, we should be living for Christ. It should be Christ living in us. We're living, everything we do should be for him. And that for him, that's expressed through us toward others. And so for our brothers and sisters, we build up, we don't tear down. We love, we don't discourage. And for the lost, we just love them exactly where they're at, exactly as Jesus did. What lost, broken person did Jesus ever condemn? He didn't, he just loved. And that's us. We're supposed to just love. Just love. Church, just love. Just love. All the law and the prophets are summed up in this. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's it.